Welcome everyone to Advent of Code with Pandas. This is day 14. So here's some sample input. Every line that we're given is a set of coordinates. These XY coordinates create lines. So this is like the first line. The second line of coordinates creates this line. Now notice the intermediate points are not given. So these lines always go horizontal or just vertical. It's up to you to create the intermediate points. So that's the first step of the problem, is to create these lines which will serve as barriers. So what's happening is a grain of sand is being dropped from 500 down, and it's going to keep going down 1 unit at a time until it hits this line. Now, once it hits this a line, it'll try to move diagonally down to the left first or diagonally down to the right next. So it's easier to see over here on this one. So say it hits, it's going down vertically here and it runs into this one. There's an open space down to the left, so it will go there. If there wasn't a space there, then it would move diagonally down and to the right. All right, so if it can't move down, left, or right, then it will stay put and then another drop of sand will appear. All right, so let's go ahead and see how this is done in Pandas. So we're going to read in one line at a time. We're going to separate with this little arrow and to XY coordinates. I'm going to stack the coordinates one on top of each other after I split. So I'm going to first separate by this, and then I will split by a comma and then stack everything so I can show you this one at a time. So here's the first thing where I just get all of the, this reads in all of the points. Then I'm going to stack them one on top of the other like this. And then I'm going to, these are still strings. So now I'm going to split these strings like this. And lastly, convert them to integers like that. And then just rename the columns. Okay, so I got all the points. Notice that there is a multi-index over here. So you can see this is the first, this describes the first line. So there's a lot of coordinates in that first line. So you can see here, only the X or Y is going to change for every direction. So this, the line goes from 97 to 94, then back up to 97 for the Y. Then the X changes. So the line then moves horizontally instead of vertically. Okay, so that is that. This is just getting the min and max of the X and Y. This is for later in the problem because we need to know the boundaries for our sand, where it can fall off the map, because there will just be, there will be no lines. So we have to know whether it'll just continuously fall forever. And then I just store each one of these into separate variables. All right, so the first thing I want to do is show how to get these intermediate points. So we need to get all the points in a line, not just the corners. So I want to get, 96, 95 here. These will repeat, which is okay. Here I want to get 517 and so forth. So I just want to get those intermediate points. I'm going to show this to you one group at a time. So I'm going to pick out the first group. And because of the multi-index, I can grab that first group and then just get that underlying data frame. By the way, here is the second line that is formed over here. That's the beginning of the second one. All right, but here's just the first group. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to diff it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the difference vertically. So only one of these will be changing at a time. And I'm going to find the total difference. So I'm going to sum up horizontally over here like this. This is the total difference. And then I'm going to take the absolute value and then the cumulative sum and just convert it back to integer. It's a float. This is just, it's a little bit unnecessary. So this is the absolute value of the movement, the cumulative movement as we go along in a single direction. All right. And the reason I've done this is these are the number of rows I need to insert at every point. Okay. So for instance, here, it needs 3 rows, right, to go from 97 to 94. In the second one, it needs, this is cumulative, so it needs 3 more rows to go back to 97. let's go back where there's a bigger one. So from 3 to 4, there's 10 rows over here. So this will go, this Y takes 10. So I'm just inserting these 10 rows. All right, now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take this, that's the same calculation, I didn't change anything, and I'm going to assign it to the index for that group. All right, so now the index has changed, right? This is, you can think of the total number of steps that have taken. And then I'm going to re-index. So I'm going to, this is how you spread things out in Pandas. You can use this re-index. So I'm just going to use, I'm going to re-index it from 0 up to 112. That's what this is doing. And when I do that, notice that whatever the current index is, it stays, but it inserts now. It inserts in all of these missing rows. So if I do dot head over here, you can see more. So you can see here, it has inserted these in, but wherever the old data was, it keeps that in place. So it's inserting in all these rows. They will be missing values. And then all I'm going to do is call interpolate, which will linearly interpolate this. So it'll go one at a time and then just convert to numeric. And you can see now it is inserted in all of those rows. That's a pretty cool trick how it expanded the group and then inserted in everything. All right, so all I have here is a function that will do this by group. So I just create a function. It's that same exact code. I'm going to group by the outer level over here. So notice our data frame is, this is level 0, this is level 1. So this outer level represents, each point. That's just what happened when I stacked this data on top of each other and split it out. Okay, so it's going to go through this outer level. That's what the group is. And then, so now it's expanded everything. So you can check a particular group. You can say, all right, I want to look at, line 125, and this is line 125. Everything should be expanded out like that. All right, so very cool. This is all the points for all of the lines. All right, now what I'm going to do is simple. So I'm just going to create a loop that will drop sand from 500, 0. That's what I'm doing here. And then the logic, it will continually to look below, left, and right. Right? So if below is not one of the points, so all points is the barrier, right? So, or a sand that is stuck, right? So I'm going to continually add sand to my barrier, and the sand will then count as a barrier. So it'll check that. If not, it'll just update the current position. So it just moves it down 1. Otherwise, it'll check if it can go down to the left or down to the right. If it can't move in any direction, it will just add this to this set over here. So I've just created these points as a set with this. So I've created each row as a tuple. And then, so this is a set of tuples. So really just a set of points. So it's going to go through here. If it does get added, then it'll go to it'll break out of this loop and it'll start again. And it's going to keep doing that until one piece of sand just falls continuously. So it just continues off the map. So it's either, greater than the X max or less than the X min or just greater than the Y max. So we know it has fallen off the map. So it's going to keep going. I'm going to use this in play equals false. That will break out of this loop like that. Okay, so that's how we do this one. That is part A. Part B is you have to assume there's a barrier 2 below the Y max. And we just want to see the total number that have been, total number of pieces of sand that will be added until the top position is no longer able to produce any more sand. So until we block 500, 0. So we have a bottom barrier that runs all the way across at the Y max plus 2. And then this time the loop is just essentially the same. I've just broken it over here whenever the current position is 500, 0. So it can't move, right? So it only gets into this part when it cannot move. All right. And then we just can see, look at num added and see what that is. So this is just counting the number of pieces of sand that have been added into our, into our grid. All right, so that wraps it up for Advent of Code with Pandas, day 14.